Friday evening, everyone. Welcome to Cherries Red Army. Is there a better way to start a football weekend than with a live preview stream? Remember these last season, really enjoyed them. Well, let's do it again. And it's an opportunity for you. You know what to do. The chat is open. Put any thoughts you have on this match preview in there. We'll show as many as we can. And how about you start by putting your name and even telling us where you're joining us from around the world? Because we do have fans in America, Australia, everywhere. So let us know who's currently joining us right now. Now, we are 10 subscribers away from 800. We continue to kick on, and can we get there very, very soon? So please do subscribe if you are new to the channel. Also, if you're not able to catch this video live, that's no problem. Just let us know your thoughts in the comments running up to kickoff tomorrow afternoon, and hit that like button because it really, really does help. So it's Blackpool versus Bournemouth at 3:00 tomorrow, Bloomfield Road, and we've got some exciting guests coming up. And as always, it's a big game in the Championship. Let's do it.
He's got two to his left, but he goes to his right, and Solanke into the box. Dom Solanke looking for a shooting chance, and Dom Solanke takes that chance. Out comes the bow and arrow celebration from Solanke. And now Cherries on the move again. Marcondes right hand side, clips across in, deflected, and the stooping error from Solanke makes it two. And Dom Solanke, just 19 minutes into the game, is all of a sudden on a hat-trick. Luke Garbutt then to swing this one in for the right touchline for Blackpool. The first hit was a Cherries one, it's back off the post and forced in from close range. And Bournemouth from 2-0 and cruising could now be pegged back to 2-2 by Blackpool's top man last season, Jerry Yates, who does drive it straight down the middle.
And here we go. And it did have 3 extra guests on that thumbnail you just saw, but we're having connection issues at the moment with Ross Embleton, and he'll hopefully come into this preview at some point. We'll keep trying. But let's come to my first guest. You see him regularly on this channel. He's got the numbers. Jon Spark, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you, Kirk. Thanks for having me on again. I've got to say, it's a delight to have our weekends back to normal, as it were, after last weekend having to wait till 6:30 on a Sunday to get the football match going. The normal routine has returned, thankfully, this weekend.
Brilliant. And our opposition view guest this week is TomMayne from the Seasiders Podcast. How you doing, Tom?
Yeah, I'm very well. Thanks for having me on the show.
And tell us a bit more about your podcast and where the fans and viewers can find you.
Yeah, so Twitter and YouTube, just the Seasiders Podcast. It's been running for many a year now. I joined last year or during the sort of lockdown season. I went on initially as a guest, and me and another member called Sam ran a preview show basically for every match, and then Jon and the team run a match reaction for any of the sort of members that want to go on. And obviously during lockdown, it's one of those ones where you could go from your laptop or go from your telly straight onto the match reaction show because we couldn't go to games. So it was quite difficult for all football fans. So as Jon just said, it's good to get back to some normal routine and sort of take the game in and go a couple of days later, sort of talk through the match rather than doing it immediately when maybe your thoughts are clouded.
Definitely. And let's get straight into it, Jon, then. As we do on these match previews, let's focus on the Cherries to start with. Anticipation was growing on Wednesday as the fans were expecting a performance as well as a result. We did get there in the end. The first half was more positive than what we've seen recently. It was 3-1, but lots happened in that game, didn't it?
Yeah, it was certainly one for the neutral with 4 goals and a red card, including 2 goals after the red. So it had a lot going on in there. But we very much came out of the chaps well in the first half, scoring 2 good goals, hitting the post at least twice, obviously scoring the first goal after hitting the post the first time. And then getting the kind of rewards that the fans really want to see for a strong first half showing, where often in games we've done well and for a first half, but haven't really taken the spoils from that early showing. After the second half, not quite as strong, very Parker Ballish to not really go quite at it when we're 2-0 up. Jefferson Lerma puts in a stupid tackle, which maybe even 5 years ago would only have got a yellow, but nowadays we understand the kind of contact that you just can't make when you're a defender. Totally needlessly gets himself a red card, which, although the club have tried to appeal, that was turned down, so he will be unavailable for 4 matches, as this is his second red card. In fact, it's his second straight red of the season. And then, thankfully, Jayden Anthony, as you can see on the screen, was able to combine well with Dominic Solanke and then dribble past goal players, get a nice deflection and tuck the ball into the corner for his first goal in quite a few months, and seal the 3 points.
Interestingly, Tom, when we were 2-0 up at half-time, we sort of knew we needed another goal. And then when that first one went in, I was in the stadium. I was doing a match day vlog, and I thought, Coventry, Blackpool, we've been here before. What was your thoughts on that Bournemouth win, but especially when it went to 2-1?
Yeah, first and foremost, that's a win you needed, wasn't it? Especially after the loss at the weekend. Which I thought, credit to Bournemouth. I thought they were very decent and resolute against, good quality opposition. But yeah, it's one Scott Parker and the lads needed, wasn't it? And like you said, when you're 2-0 up and you think Birmingham are one of those sides that can hurt you, but also can be tamed well. Like you said, a needless red card and puts the pressure on 10 men at 2-1, but it's that sigh of relief to score, not even that late on, really, just to make it a bit more comfortable, wasn't it? And as John said, Anthony getting a goal, I think, is a quality talent. It's quite a shame you've signed so many players, because will he get a start? I'm not sure, but he's quality. I really like him, so it was good to see him on the score sheet, and hopefully he doesn't replicate that tomorrow. But a quality player all around, and like you said, it's a win you definitely needed to keep the pressure onto the automatic spots.
Some debuts as well, John, some starts, and then obviously some cameos, and that was good to see.
Yeah, very good to see. And obviously in the weekend loss, we had a few of the players that we signed come onto the pitch just to say their hellos. Kiefer Moore was injured, so couldn't play. Siriki Dembele was cup-tied, and Ethan Laird is still injured. So when they actually were able to come onto the pitch, that was a great sign. Now, Kiefer Moore is going to be the backup for most of the season, but he's a hell of a second choice to bring on. And if we ever needed to go 2 up top, I'm sure he should combine quite nicely with Dom Solanke. Siriki Dembele, I understand aspects of his game, but I didn't realise quite how much of a dribbler he was. And looking up stats before tonight, Siriki Dembele and Josh Bowler have the most successful dribbles per match in the league, according to FotMob. Dembele is 0.1 higher at the moment, but obviously that was for Peterborough, not us. But interesting to see those two going up against each other, probably on the same side of the pitch, as we'll come to on the discussing the lineups. Todd Cantwell was the really exciting one that I think a lot of Bournemouth fans left the pitch, left the match thinking, okay, yeah, he is something. And his combinations with Ryan Christie is what I'm really looking forward to on the right-hand side. And with Christie hitting the crossbar, almost got the first goal between the two of them. But the interesting one for me, actually, I think, is Nat Phillips, because with Gary Cahill being a very experienced player, but really no pace at all, has become more and more evident. And obviously, you don't think he's going to last the whole season with the body getting older. I think it's interesting that we were much more comfortable pressing higher in that game against Birmingham, because we have two big, strong, but also, agile defenders in Nat Phillips and Lloyd Kelly at the back, with Jack Stacey able to shift up and down the wing alongside with Jordan Moore on the other side. The team were able to press higher, I felt, in that game. You only got to look at the second goal, I think, for a good pressing, and for a number of moments in the first half in particular at the height that we pressed, which I don't think we've done enough of in the middle of this season. So I think that new defensive combination will hopefully be quite successful. Very unlucky for Phillips, of course. He doesn't thankfully get the own goal, but obviously his attempt to block that shot was the reason it went past Travers. But all the signings are looking very positives. And we're still yet to see one of them in Ethan Laird. So, very pleased with the window and how things have gone so far.
Right, we're going to turn to Blackpool in just a moment as we see who's joining us on this live Friday night stream. We've got Morgan Scott. Sammy, she was happy on Wednesday with the 3-1 prediction that she goes with most weeks. It came in, didn't it? And they're in a hotel, likely. Blackpool, Scotty Parker's resting, ready for tomorrow's game. Joining us. How you doing, Scotty? We've got Jordan Hayes, Blackpool fan, in the chat. Thanks for joining us. Chris Hubble, saw him in the North Stand. How are you doing? All good. We've also got Mark Cole. Always love to hear what Mark's got to say. And with Scotty Parker in a hotel, John, we've got Max in Russia. Max Denham, the chairman. He's joining us as well in this live stream. We've got AFC Bournemouth, Germany. Got Nick Osborne as well. If this is the right Nick Osborne, which it might not be, there is a Nick Osborne that works in the ticket office for AFC Bournemouth, so probably not the same one. But thanks for joining us. And let's move on to Blackpool then, Tom. Tell us a bit about your last couple of results. A 1-1 draw against Coventry midweek, as you reminded me, and also a win at the weekend, but unbeaten in 5. Yeah, how's your last few results gone?
Yeah, a really, really good start after sort of a hibernation at Christmas, and it was a real pleasure to sort of start 2022 in the manner we have. The last home game was a good 3-1 victory, and probably the most comfortable we've been in a game since we beat Preston at home. It was one of those ones at 3-0 where we just kept the ball, didn't really go for the jugular, but the job was done, and that hasn't been an experience we've seen or sort of witnessed as Blackpool fans this season, because we've won many a game 1-0 or 2-1. So I have a tendency to concede goals and not score too many. So Saturday was really good. And moving on to Tuesday, we made four or five changes. But Ethan Robson started centre mid. He's been playing for MK on and off in League One, and I think he had a sort of welcome to reality moment in the Championship because he didn't settle very well in the game. We had some defensive changes. So to make 4 or 5 changes, go 1-0 up against a very, very, very decent Coventry side, especially at home, usually play sort of a 3-4-1-2 formation, but they've got pace, they've got organisation, and they've got some clinical players in their team. So although their results haven't been going the way they wanted recently, it was a very decent away point. I think any team that go to Coventry this season and get a draw, they'll be happy with. So really happy with the way we've started 2022, and hopefully that kicks on tomorrow.
John, Blackpool have got some good goal scorers in their team. Yates was top goal scorer, I think, for Blackpool last season. He's got 7 this season. Gary Medine, he's a regular in the Championship, isn't he? But I did notice as well for Blackpool, though, that they're the second team in the top 14 in negative goal difference. That's something to focus on as well, maybe, for Bournemouth.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, they're right almost bang in the middle of the league in terms of goals scored, Blackpool. And surprisingly similar to us, they're very much reliant on their open play goals as well. They've scored 1 fewer set piece goal than us, but they have scored more penalties than us. It's a mixed bag in that regard. Defensively, you go through good phases and bad phases. Blackpool are currently 5 games unbeaten, but they went through a period where they lost 5 and 6. So, it swings and roundabouts. And if you get injuries, as any team does, it can certainly affect them. But I think I wouldn't be focused too much on that aspect, on the fact that they've got negative goal difference. Certainly when you look at, particularly in their League One season, they were renowned for their defensive solidity, as from what I heard about how good they were in League One, and certainly their manager, who I'd love Tom's thoughts on after this in Neil Critchley, is so highly rated. Obviously taken from was it the Liverpool youth system that brought him in from, and just some quick Googling and whatever on him, and from what I hear, it's almost like a standard practice on a Saturday to look at the lineup and think, what the hell's he done there? And then realize 2 hours later it was a genius decision and you should never doubt him in your life. And that sounds quite Eddie Howe, to be honest, from how we did in our promotion winning season. So, how have you felt this season going, and how the Critchley has managed the team, and the new expectations, obviously, of coming up to the Championship for your first season back?
Yeah, he's extremely meticulous in what he does, and you're absolutely right. I think it's only 4 or 5 times he's kept the same lineup since he's been Blackpool manager, and that's including in League One. I think in the playoffs last season against Oxford, we expected a similar team to sort of how we finished the season. He made 4 or 5 changes there and went out and won 3-0. So he keeps the opposition manager guessing, but I think he cares deeply in his own sort of in his own coaching. He obviously, he thinks he can go out there and beat every team, which is really positive. He, even when we win, he likes to pinpoint sort of things that went wrong, but he's also very humble when we get it wrong against Fulham. Even though we got a really good draw away from home, he said we started the game incorrectly and that was my fault. And even before the match against Bristol City, he was sort of analysing their play, apparently from about 1 o'clock. Sort of says a lot about him. I genuinely wouldn't swap him for any manager in the Football League at the moment, and even in the Premier League. He gets it. He gets Blackpool, and he's going to go on to so much bigger and better things. And hopefully, he's with us for a few seasons. He signed a 5-year contract, and yeah, I just absolutely love him. I think he's brilliant, an amazing coach, and I expect him to see him very high up in football for a very long time.
Talking about the Blackpool manager, then, John, let's go back to that August fixture, the 2-2 between the teams at Dean Court. Dom Solanke, he got 2 goals that day. He just hit a milestone the other night. Not the milestone, by the way, because we're waiting for one more to hit 20 league goals, but he has 20 goals overall. But Blackpool did change their tactics, and they hurt us inside 3 minutes and scored 2 quick goals and took away a draw. And that was a point that we let slip. Well, from the first half performance anyway.
Yeah, that was almost a hint of things to come in terms of the way that as a team we quite often do very well in the first half, maybe strike against the run of play after the first sort of 10-ish minutes. And then once it hits the second half, and this is a consistent theme for Bournemouth, I feel, is that the opposition team hasn't done great over the first half, whatever reason that might be. And at half time, the opposition manager goes, right, we're going to change this. You're going to do this different, and this is going to happen differently. And Scott Parker seems to just go, fantastic, do the same again in the second half, which doesn't work when the opposition is doing something different. And Blackpool were able to take advantage of not only Bournemouth not being at it at the start of that half, but also I think a little bit of inexperience as well. Zeno Embleton Rossi, who is still rate very highly, has gone on loan to D. He was culpable for at least one of the goals. I did look back, and you showed the highlights at the start of this show of their goal, but I think they won the ball off us for either the first or second goal quite high up the pitch, which is not something that happens to us all that often, but we just weren't adapting to that very well. And Blackpool were able to come in and really, we were lucky not to lose that game from what I remember. Certainly Dominic Solanke had a chance to score a hat-trick when he was one-on-one with the goalkeeper that he failed to score as well towards the end of the first half. In the end, you could say that affair was probably an accurate result. But, it was lessons that I'd hope that we'll learn for this time around, because, Blackpool at the time were, I believe, in the relegation zone. Leading up to that game, I don't think you'd won a match up to that point, and now obviously comfortably mid-table and much more used to the system, much more used to the league and the tribulations that come with it. So this is going to be a much harder game. So the players need to be right on top of things all 90 minutes if we're going to hope to get more than any kind of result, really.
This is a tough fixture tomorrow. Tom, the Bournemouth fans did respect your fans on the day. You were very loud and proud, and I mean, you must have been chuffed with a 2-2 draw at the end.
Yeah, Blackpool fans have been a credit to the club this season. They've been very loud everywhere they go. There's a song about that somewhere. But yeah, I think at 2-0 and like you say, 1-1 Dominic Solanke for 1 goal, you think it's going to wrap up his hat-trick, and it's just going to be one of those afternoons. But again, resolute. I think you'd let us into the game a little bit, but as John's already alluded to, a change of system to get the first goal, and then I think it was the second goal. Talking about John, we nick the ball, go into the box, and get a very clumsy tackle on us for the penalty, and there was a through ball which was onside, and as you said, we're lucky not to lose and should have gone through on goal and potentially sort of scored that. But to go away to Bournemouth at 2-0 down, you're thinking the worst at half time. But that was actually the game that our centre back came back, Marvin Epiketeta, came back, and although we conceded 2 goals, we looked 10 times better in defence, as you say, after looking very shaky in the first few games. So that's continued ever since. And just going back to a few points ago, I don't think it's a case of we concede, we're a minus goal difference. I think if you look at our goals conceded, it's up there with, or similar to some of the teams in the playoffs. It's just the fact that we don't do it at the other end of the pitch, and our chance creation is, or has been, very minimal up until the last few weeks. So if we continue in the same vein of form of creating chances, especially at home, like we saw against Bristol, and continue the defensive work, then there's no reason why we can't continue to push on and sort of appear around that mid-table point, which is unbelievable for our first season back in the Championship.
Talk to us about players then, Tom. This is your lineup from midweek, I think.
Yeah.
So what will the team look like? It looks like a 4-4-2 lately with 2 strikers.
Yeah.
Of that team, what is likely to start? And tell us about some of the players. And obviously, Josh Bowler's in there.
He is. And was vital to the goal, one of the goals, or should I say the only goal we scored against Coventry, with a really decent crossfield pass to Owen Dale. But I expect Dujon Sterling to start at left back, Jordan Gabriel to come in for Reece James, or should I say Dujon Sterling and Gabriel to change. So we'll have Sterling, Gabriel, Marvs, and probably not Richard Keogh, and more Jordan Thornley now. In defence, Dougal will probably continue to start, and I suspect Callum Connolly will come in. Although a traditional centre-back, he's done exceptionally well at centre-mid in the last few games, and was surprised he was dropped. I think Bowler will start on the wing with Hamilton coming back. And then I'd probably say Lavery and Medine to start up top in a 4-4-2. In terms of key players, I'm going to pinpoint one that doesn't get spoken about, but he was nominated recently for Player of the Month, and that's Dan Grimshaw's come in for Maxwell. Looked really ropey. I saw him in his first game away at Forest. His kicking was woeful, and but he's come on leaps and bounds since, and has been really key to our defence. So Grimmy's a good one to look out for. Dougal's had a really good game before Coventry. He was very poor against Coventry, but before Coventry, he's had a really good game. He's our centre midfielder. Obviously, we know about Polo recently. He's been in decent form. Lavery's a really nippy sort of striker, continues to press, and actually has to be told not to press sometimes, and press with the team and reserve energy. And we all know about Gary Medine, so really pivotal in holding the ball up and obviously creating chances in the air as well. But I'd say the key players are Grimshaw. Gabriel, when he starts, has been phenomenal right back since coming back in. Bowler and one of the 2 strikers really, but we're a well balanced side, but we miss goals from the centre midfield. I think if you're going to win the game tomorrow, you're going to need to dominate the centre midfield partnership, and if Dougal and Connolly are not on it, then you can really hurt us with the quality you've got. If we are on it as a team, you're going to be in for a really tough afternoon, because no team really leaves Bloomfield Road with an easy 3 points, unless it was Luton a few weeks ago, which was one of the worst games ever.
They're doing well though, Luton. They have come from nowhere and they're just outside the playoffs, so fair play to them as well. John, brief thoughts on the potential Blackpool team. Then they've got that rotation with those 3 strikers in Yates, Medine, Lavery, but we played Birmingham and they played a 4-4-2. Did that potentially help us? And if Blackpool go with a 4-4-2, does that create spaces for us to press and maybe get on the front foot like we sort of did from the 12th minute in midweek?
Well, the thing in Birmingham is they've shifted to a 4-4-2 at half-time, but they were playing a 3 or a 5-3-2 from what I could tell for the most of the first half. And the thing that helped us with that is that as much as you'd expect the 2 strikers to be going as 2 centre-backs, what actually happened was that Jack Stacey on the right back sort of shifted into the right defensive midfield position to form a double pivot with Jefferson Lerma, and he stuck himself on one of the strikers. Scott Hogan, I think it was, which ended up being that whenever they cleared it long, we had great defensive solidity in the middle, because their left wing back was stuck in defence because Ryan Christie obviously plays so high up the pitch. So we were able to control the midfield in defence when we were on attack quite comfortably. Whereas against Blackpool, who I would be amazed if they don't play a 4-4-2, it's not going to be quite that simple. Because Ryan Christie we expect to be injured, it's going to be interesting who plays right wing and how they're going to be able to affect that side of the pitch. But Blackpool, as far as what I can see, certainly from stats, is they definitely play up the wing like us. They like to produce their attacks down the wing. You can see through a lot of their goals, certainly recently, it's someone getting to the byline or close to the byline and cutting it back, which is obviously one of the most effective ways to play there is. And so our midfield, it's going to be interesting to see how whoever's playing at left and right wing are able to deal with the attacking fullbacks from Blackpool. It's going to be interesting as well, like you were talking about the midfield battle. We obviously play in a 4-3-3, so you'd expect the midfield to dominate. But Blackpool are a very effective, high-pressing side. If we don't have the kind of crisp passing that, there are definitely games where we don't perform well enough like that. It's going to be quite difficult for us to play the kind of passing out from the back game that we want to play. So there's definitely going to be some interesting tactical battles going on there. But 4-4-2 going against 4-3-3, there's certain things you expect to happen in that, and we'll see what happens on the day.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. Obviously, I can never second guess Critchley, and I think we've ever got a lineup right on the preview show for one of Critchley's starting 11. But two things we're going to sort of ask is, I don't really know how we're going to set up tomorrow, because against Fulham we went to a 5-3-2, but then changed it about a little bit at home, obviously, and recently we're going to a 4-4-2. We can go 4-3-1-2, but Hamilton and Bowler likely to start. I say likely, it's probably going to be none of those two, and Kirk and Day, or who knows. But how do you think you're going to cope with the pace of not only the directness of Bowler, but the actual raw pace of CJ Hamilton?
So certainly with regards to Bowler, Jordan Zamora has actually been more of impressive defensively as the season has gone on, I would say. Certainly that was the area we were most worried about when he first came in, because really we all saw him as a left wing back, not really necessarily defensively strong enough. But I think, because certainly Josh Bowler was a player that a lot of Bournemouth fans noticed, and I think most opposition fans noticed Josh Bowler after the game. But I do remember at the time seeing him get past Zamora a bit, but seemingly have no end product. Where he has now improved that recently. So, I would expect that in the formation that we've got, we're probably going to have Todd Cantwell as the right attacking midfielder and Philip Billing as the left attacking midfielder. They're probably going to be asked to perform quite a strong defensive duty to support on the wings and to cover the wings. Jack Stacey, I think, should be able to certainly pace. I think he can generally compete against. He is quite fast. He's quite rapid, as much as I'm sure CJ Anderson is as well. In terms of raw pace, they probably should be able to roughly compete. It's tricky wingers that he often struggles against and will dive in a little bit too quickly and gets caught out. So yeah, I don't think we've come. It's an interesting thing this season. 4-4-2 is not the standard formation anymore at all. So you don't come up against them very often. So it'd be interesting to see how Parker tries to deal with that. And yeah, I would certainly expect the midfielders, the wide attacking midfielders, to have to help out defensively to sort of gang up on a 3v2 on the wings.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Cantwell versus the fullbacks. It's going to be a really interesting battle tomorrow.
Right, Tom, we're going to get your score prediction in a bit, but you are unbeaten in 5. However, Bournemouth are unbeaten against Blackpool in 4. It's 7 clean sheets to you, 13 clean sheets to Bournemouth, but you have beaten Fulham and Blackburn at home. What's your score prediction for tomorrow's game?
My heart says 2-1 to Blackpool. But I'll go with a 2-2. I think it will be. I think it'll be one of the games where we potentially score early, but you've got so much quality. I wouldn't be surprised if we did lose 3-1. I've got a lot of respect for the players you've signed, but going at home with the North Stand, I'll go positive on the pod, because no doubt you're going to predict a Bournemouth win. So I'll go 2-1 Blackpool.
Yeah, it's not going to be a massively positive win, but we probably will back our boys. Tom, it's been great to have you on. Follow the Seaside Podcast. The details are in the description below. Enjoy the game tomorrow. I'm sure we'll catch up with you very soon.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Cheers, Tom.
Great to have Tom on, Jon.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. Great to have an opinion from opposition view. Back on a live preview as well. To have that again, first time in a little while.
Yeah, I do love it, actually. I have missed the live previews, and we need to definitely do more of these, but it is tough now life's going back to some sort of normality. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but I haven't seen a presser today. So if someone has seen a presser, do let me know, because I'm sure I haven't seen it on Twitter or the club website. And also, I think the under-21s are also currently playing as well. So, yeah, give us a score update as well, if I am correct with that, Jon. The under-21s,
they're playing Southampton in, I think it's the final group game of their of this. If they need, I think if they win, they go through. So there's a lot of pressure on, but it's 0-0 at the moment after 35 minutes.
So not sure there was an official presser. However, there was some breaking news about an hour ago. Someone within the club was tasked with asking the FA to see if they could take away the red card from Jeff Lerma. Complete and utter waste of time, in my opinion. And look, I know there's difference of opinion. There always is, especially when you go onto Twitter. It's not the worst challenge I've ever seen in the world, Jon. My issue I have with it, we all love Jeff Lerma. There's no one in this world that doesn't love Jeff Lerma. But that tackle was completely unnecessary in an area of a pitch where they were unlikely to hurt us. If the player got past Jeff, he had to deal with Phillips. And he just gave the referee an option to potentially send him off. And we know his card is marked. For me, it was never going to be taken away. And we have to deal now with a 4-match suspension.
Yeah, I think appealing it really was the stupid thing. It was even more stupid from the club, because that sort of is a further little thing that the FA that us sort of don't have a good relationship with the FA kind of thing continues. Southampton have just scored in the development squad game. But I think when you look at the tackle. There's a couple of things. Firstly, he's completely off the ground. It's a two-footed tackle. It's a scissor challenge, and if you only look at the stills, it may well be that he's only really sort of been sort of knee to knee, as it were, but the connection. He completely chops the guy down. We in the Cardiff match where was it Bakuna that went through? Did a very similar scissor challenge on Billing. The difference being that was from behind as opposed to from the side, like Lerma's was. I can understand why people would think it's only yellow, but when you go in two-footed, all off the ground, with that kind of aggression, nowhere near the ball, it all adds up. And in the end, I think the referee's mind was made up when the player, I think, was trying to sort of show where the area of contact was between. He was certainly pointing to his knee or thigh or something to the ref, because the contact was slightly above the knee, between the knees. Lerma's knee went into the guy's thigh, I think. And I think that sort of the fact that was where the contact was, I think made up the referee's mind. So it's stupid from Jeff, but it does give an opportunity for someone else to come in and try and take that spot, and they've got 4 games to do it.
And who's going to take that spot? Because we come to that moment in the preview shows where we try and predict what Scott Parker's going to do in that predicted 11. And there's going to be a talking point about that holding midfielder role. Let us know your thoughts in the chat. Let's go into the predicted 11 for Blackpool. Okay, so there's potentially an option to change the formation and maybe go with 2 strikers. However, we're going to keep it as it sort of has been. And the team we've gone for at the moment is Mark Travers in goal. What a performance he had. Not a clean sheet, but definitely saved us the points the other night. Jack Stacey right back. Adam Smith has been seen in training, so not sure how fit and ready he is. But Nat Phillips, Lloyd Kelly, Jordan Samora. Question mark. Holding role. We're going to work that out together. Cantwell and Billing, hopefully, to play together. But again, Sammy's also mentioned it. Didn't see Billing in the training images. Jayden Anthony from the right, Dembele from the left, Solanke up top. And that's potentially because Christie came off and he also wasn't seen in the training pictures. So before we go into that CDM position, Jon, your thoughts on that team?
Yeah, I think as much as possible, it's basically what we would have what was played in the last game. Obviously, Lerma can't, and then we are looking at Christie coming off with an injury. In all likelihood, probably not going to be fit, and there's no real reason to rush him back. It's not like we don't have other options to play that right wing role. So I would certainly, even if he was maybe even fit enough for the bench, I certainly wouldn't be starting him if he had to come off injured in the last game. So we were talking or texting beforehand, what we would do to replace Christie, and I think we're both in agreement that Dembele certainly is deserving of starting over Jamal Lowe. But then which way do you play them? Do you play Dembele on the right, or do you play Anthony on the right? And my argument would be that Jayden Anthony is the more creative midfielder, and he's the one that's going to cross the ball if the situation arises. And let's not forget, he scored coming off the right against Birmingham. So I think he's more likely to be able to play that position on the right, even if he no longer dovetails with Zamora, obviously, and he's definitely less effective off the right-hand side. Dembele is the guy I want off that left side, taking on his man, dribbling past him, cutting onto his right foot and shooting, as he was very close to doing at one point, certainly against Birmingham. But we could see like his ability on the ball, the times he dribbled past a player with ease. I mean, the thing is, I think I posted on Twitter. I was going to post on Twitter. So when was the last time we've seen someone glide past players like that? And then I remembered, Danjuma last year. But before that, when was the last time we had a player that really glided past players like that? And I don't really remember one. I mean, Pugh was the Cruyff turn master.
Say, but Pugh, did he glide? He chopped.
He chopped.
He was quicker than people thought, though. He was quicker than people thought, because people thought Mark Pugh wasn't that quick, and he is quick.
Well, I mean, you say that. FIFA thought he was way quicker than he actually was. His pace on FIFA for a while was ridiculous. But I would certainly say have Dembele off the left and Anthony on the right, even if it is Anthony less effective. I think he can have an impact, whereas Dembele, I think, should always be playing off the left-hand side. And for the rest, it all says itself. The interesting one, I think, as Sammy pointed out in the chat, is Billing. Yeah, that's a shout. Liam Feeney, possibly. But Billing, that'd be interesting. If Billing doesn't play, then I'd imagine it would be Marcondes. I can't think he would swap Billing for Cook in that spot, because we know how Cook just isn't really used to that number 8 spot. And Marcondes and Billing are very, very similar in their style of play, in the way they want to play. So I would certainly imagine it's going to be Marcondes or Billing in that spot. But Cantwell definitely stays where he is. And the back line, there's no need to change.
Right, so there's a key decision then, because there's only 10 players on that pitch, and I know that there's some fans already putting a name in the chat. Let's refresh the chat, shall we? So I'm going to put my name forward as Ben Pearson to start in that Lerma role that Lerma's vacated because of that red card. And Jon, you're going for someone else. Who are you going for?
I would be going for Lewis Cook.
And Jon's going for Lewis Cook. So who do you want? Because it could also be Kilkenny. So let's give you 1 minute. Pearson, Kilkenny, or Lewis Cook. And it's going to be an interesting one, Jon, isn't it? Because all three are capable of doing a job on the day. But as we spoke about, this is a tough fixture at Bloomfield Road. It's going to be hard to get 3 points. I mean, we're going to back the team. I'm sure we are when we give our score predictions in about 10 minutes. But we're going to need someone in there that can break up the play and get us going further up the pitch.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that for Blackpool are actually quite a high pressing side. They are quite similar to us in their level of pressing. I think our PPDA is slightly higher. I'm not sure exactly of the stats, but looking at their sort of action areas on Who Scored earlier on, they have almost an identical spread of action in the opposition third, their own third, and the middle compared to us. So I think the reason why I would be going for Lewis Cook in this game, or arguably you could also choose Kilkenny, but the reason I'd be going for Lewis Cook is certainly when he slotted into that number 6 role after Lerma got sent off, it was like he'd never stopped playing. It's like he'd come back to exactly what we expected from him and exactly what I expect his role to be on the ball. He was actually making some really nice interceptions. Whenever he got the ball, he played it well, but he didn't. And this is the difference, I think, between him and Pearson, is that Pearson is the kind of player that will take 2 touches at most. Ideally, he will take a touch and pass it, and he knows what he's going to do with it before he receives the ball, and it's only directly ahead of him. He gets it from the centre back, he puts it to the right back. Gets it from the right back, puts it to the centre back. He just doesn't pass forward. He doesn't take any risks, which is fine. But against a high-pressing team, you want to try and beat the press. You don't want to try and necessarily go around it. You want to be able to have the players that go through it. And when we've got Cantwell and Billing, maybe Marcondes, you want a player that can feed it to them. And I think that's where Lewis Cook should come in. Remember, we're probably going to be playing against a 4-4-2. You can play around that central midfield too, but you need a passer to do that. And that's not what Ben Pearson is. He's a great player to break up the play, but they play fast and aggressive. I think Lewis Cook is better at helping us pass through that, but it depends on what you want from the game. And I can see why Ben Pearson would be picked. For me, I would be going with Lewis Cook.
I can see the chat, John, and I know you can as well, because I allowed you to see the chat again. I disabled it last time so you couldn't see. We have a name. It's on the pitch, on our virtual pitch, and we're going to show you that name, but you need to hit the like button. As Sammy's just said, come on. Hit that like button because it really does help with the popularity on YouTube. But we've got a name in our predicted lineup. Ben Pearson will take that role at holding midfielder. And if you weren't able to join us live, do you agree or disagree? Let us know in the comments. And who would you have picked? Maybe you would have gone for Lewis Cook, just like John did. But that is our predicted 11 for Blackpool. And just to back it up, John, we got Pearson there with Sammy. Cameron did back you though, John. Pearson, Lewis Cook, Pearson, split him in half. One in there for Kilkenny, Pearson. He was taking most of the chat, and a Lewis Cook in there as well.
I think Chris went for Pearson first, and then realised it was for Pearson.
Hello, Pearson. Tomorrow, then, it's not just AFC Bournemouth kicking off in the Championship. There are more fixtures. Let's just take a look at that Championship table, though. Blackpool 14th, probably just behind the banner, but Fulham are top, 61 points. Bournemouth are 55 because Blackburn lost in midweek. I did call it a few weeks ago, saying Blackburn would start to fall off very, very soon, and they're struggling to score goals at the moment. They're currently third, though. QPR, Huddersfield and Forest, they're creeping in, and they're playing us next Friday. But there are teams also chasing the playoffs. It's a compact league, John, isn't it? Sheffield United, I think you predicted them in a previous tier list that they would come out of nowhere and make a late dash for the playoffs. It's getting busy, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. In fact, actually, when Sheffield United were at one of their lowest points, I stuck 15 quid on them getting promoted. At the moment, I'm doubling my money if I cash out of that. So I'm doing quite nicely on that one. They really are coming up after they changed their manager. West Brom is the fun one. I think completely dropping like a stone. And then obviously have brought in Steve Bruce to come back to manage one of his old clubs. I didn't realise he'd actually managed West Brom before, but he's coming back to them. And then Luton, I was certainly talking about before we played them again, I was saying that Luton are a team that are much better than their league position suggests, because they were on a somewhat unlucky run at the time. I think they were down in 13th or 14th. And I said, look, they're a very good side. They could easily make a run for it. And they're in great form, obviously beating us along the way. Nottingham Forest are the other. Well, there's quite a lot of teams that are really on the up, but there's only so many spots for them. I think you think Blackburn will drop out. But you've got the likes of Nottingham Forest, I think, are almost guaranteed to be in there. The bookies have Sheffield United in there. I could easily see Luton sticking around. QPR are a team that could definitely hang around those top spots. It's a really difficult one to pick who's going to be taking the playoff spots. But just fingers crossed, it's not us.
Fixtures in the Championship tomorrow. Huddersfield will kick off against Sheffield United. Early kick-off. Barnsley, bottom of the league, versus QPR. Birmingham take on Luton. Blackpool, the Cherries. Hull City versus Fulham. Borough take on Derby. Millwall against Cardiff. Nottingham Forest against Stoke City. Peterborough versus Preston. Reading against Coventry. There's a game on Sunday. Swansea versus Bristol City. And John just spoke about West Brom dropping out of the playoffs. They will take on Blackburn on Monday. There's actually a game every day until next Thursday in the Championship. Any fixtures, though, for this weekend, John, that takes your fancy outside of Bournemouth?
There's a couple of interesting ones to call. Nottingham Forest Stoke is a really interesting one. Stoke City are a team that probably should be doing better than they are, but they're still not a bad outfit. Obviously, an ex-Bournemouth player and just moved from Stoke to Nottingham Forest in Sam Surridge, who's actually won the most penalties in the league in 3, more than any other player. But that's Nottingham Forest Stoke should be quite an interesting one. But I've got a lot of away wins down this week coming. Sheffield United, QPR, Luton, hopefully us, Fulham. Maybe not Cardiff, but certainly Coventry, Preston. There's a lot of away wins, I think, in that one. If anyone's putting any money on the weekend, a few bankers, I would say, but a couple of more interesting ones as well. Huddersfield Town, Sheffield United as well. The early kick on Saturday. I'll definitely have that one on in the background.
And as I said the other evening as well, and just like I predicted, Birmingham, every time they play in the last 8 games, both teams score. So if you're putting a little accumulator on, maybe at both teams, or Luton to win, both teams to score, just like Bournemouth did, that is definitely seems to be a good banker. You can see at the bottom of the screen right now, then, your opportunity to put your score predictions in the chat for Blackpool versus Bournemouth. You've got 1 minute to put your score predictions in there, and we'll show them on the screen. So much improved midweek, John. We go into this game then with a little bit of a lift. We need to sort of start the first half just how we sort of started the first half on Wednesday. It took about 12 minutes for me to get going, but then there was a lot of movement, a lot of connections, a lot of triangles and one-touch football positively being moved around higher up the pitch. But there are still some question marks. How is Billing? Because I always worry about Billing in the last couple of months and whether he's fit. Christie, was that just precaution? But yeah, we need to hit the ground running tomorrow, and we spoke about it a few times this evening. Not an easy game.
No, not at all. This is one of the hard games in the kind of set that we have over the next couple of months, because I mean, as any eagle-eyed Bournemouth fan will have noticed, our last 7 or 8 games is the that's the journey through hell of the Championship. The amount of very strong teams that we have to play at the end of the season. So we have to really try and forge a gap between ourselves and third place over the next couple of months. And this is not an easy place to go to get those points. And I mean, there's a lot more positivity, but I see a couple of fans that have put up scores that I agree with. And personally, in order for a prediction, I think we will go in front, but I am going for a 2-2 draw.
Oh, you're getting it straight out there, and I think that's what Tom said, a draw, 2-2 goals.
I mean, he said his heart was 2-1, but his head was 2-2. He wanted to be positive. I'm being on the fence.
2-2 for John. He's gone early. I'll give you mine in just a moment. Chris, he's gone for goals, 3-2 to the Cherries. Sammy's now taken the Michael because she's gone for 3-1 at home, and it took 29 games to get that one. And she's straight in there. Let's get 3-1 away, and let's do a cup, league, home and away. That's what Sammy's going for. Mark's going for 2-1. Get in there. Cherries win. AFC Bournemouth, Germany. That was my midweek prediction. 4-1, Solanke to score twice. That will take him to 21 league goals if that happens. Christie to get his 3rd league goal this season. And Billing, I think, would be 9. Cameron's agreeing with Mark Cole for a 2-1. Nick's agreeing with you, John, 2-2. And so is Mark Singleton. He is going for a 2-2 as well. Positive thinking, always until 3:05. What am I going for? That's the big question. And I might follow some of the fans in the chat, actually. I think there will be goals. I think both teams will score. I'll go for 2-1. I'm going to join Cameron. I'm going to join Mark and go for a 2-1. But we're looking forward to it, aren't we, John? And, we're trying to build more wins. And that's the interesting thing, John. We think we're in a bad patch. We lose against Bournemouth. There's questions being asked, is Scott Parker the right guy? But he's had 3 wins in 5 and we are 2nd. And it's amazing, isn't it? How one day, Sunday, it's all doom and gloom. And 4 days later, do you know what? We might get promoted again.
Yeah, well, I mean, if when you brought up the table before, I was obviously looking at all the players the teams that are fighting for the playoffs. But in terms of where we are now 1 or 2 points above Blackburn. But we've got 2 games in hand. Those games in hand are at home against Peterborough and away against West Brom. So, there's which are 2 very different games to play against. One's got the worst away record in the division, and the other one's got one of the best defensive records in the league. So I think there are positives, definitely. Blackburn were always going to go through a difficult spot. It was just whether we took advantage of that or not. We got away with it against Barnsley. We were much more convincing against Birmingham. This is going to be much more of a test than that one. Birmingham were not great, but they had a lot of injury problems as well, and they're further down the table. This Blackpool game, this is going to be tough. The players are really going to have to be performing at their best if we want to get any result, but certainly if we want to be getting those wins.
Really, really enjoyed this live preview show. We're really sorry that Ross Embleton couldn't join us. Connection issues. He will come. He will come back on, I promise you. So we'll get him on another show. He definitely was really looking forward to this. We're just going to wrap it up very soon. But before you go, remember, subscribe to Cherries Red Army. We were 10 away before the start of the show, and we really, really want to try and get to 800. So subscribe if you're new to the channel. Hit that like button as well. Hopefully it's gone past 10 now, because it really does help on the YouTube content. And we need to say a big thank you to our channel supporter members. Thank you to Mike, Mark, Rich, Richard, Sammy, Steve, Paul, and Neil. I also want to thank Ron Westcott, who made 2 coffee donations yesterday. You can become a Cherries supporter member by visiting buymeacoffee.com/Cherries Red Army, or you can simply make a one-off donation just like Ron did. It all goes into the channel. It all allows us to use the platform we're using right now to give you these wonderful, exciting shows, doesn't it, John?
Absolutely. And any donation is appreciated. It costs, unfortunately, it does cost money to run these in terms of the streaming service that you're all watching this on. As things stand, Kirk's fancy mic, which I'm waiting until we get a little bit more money for, hopefully get mine as well. But every little bit of cash that comes in does support the channel.
I definitely want to kit you all out. I promise you, you will be kitted out. If we get to 1,000, we might be able to kit you out in new football kit and new mics for the start of, hopefully, a Premier League season. Final thoughts then, John. You've given your score prediction. Are we ready for this? Are we going to it'd be 3 wins in a row in the Championship?
Yeah, which would be fantastic. And that's the aim, without a doubt. There's no reason not to go into every game thinking we can win. It's just whether the team is up to the challenge. And like I mentioned earlier on, we could well see another great start to the match. It's just whether the team is able to continue into the second half as well. Going to need to be playing well for 90 minutes against this lot, no doubt at all. But still positive. Like I said, I think we will go in front. It's just whether we'll be able to hold them off as well. But fingers crossed, and looking forward very much to 3:00 tomorrow. Great
preview, great action in the chat. Thank you to everyone who joined us. Cheers, John.
No problem. Thanks again for having me on, Coach.
If you're going up to the game, or you might already be there, but if you're going up to the game, safe travels, get behind the team. We were loud on Wednesday. We need to be loud again in that away end. If you weren't able to join us live, let us know your thoughts in the comments and put your score prediction in there. We'll check all of them. But until tomorrow, we will hopefully get you some sort of reaction after the game. So just keep checking the channel. We will drop something, I'm sure of that. Have a good weekend. Let's hope the Cherries get a win. Tangerines versus the Cherries. Hopefully the Cherries get a win. Well, let's hope we take something from the game. But from me and John on this match preview, thanks to Tom as well from the Seasiders Podcast. We'll see you on the next one. Up the Cherries.